Welcome back to the unofficial Squarespace Entrepreneur Podcast. Today I'm here with Dave Hawkins, a Squarespace certified expert, authorized trainer, circle member, etc., from the UK. I went into the Squarespace community Facebook group, and was looking for guests for the show, and I believe Dave responded, and I've seen Dave's name, around the Facebook groups for a while. So I thought it'd be great to have him on and get to know his particular perspective on Squarespace web design and what he sees from his vantage point. But yeah, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself, Dave, and then we'll get into it.
Brilliant, Amari. Well, thanks for having me, and yeah, it's a pleasure. It's exciting to join you for this conversation.
Awesome. So Dave, you've been at this for a while now. You've got 9 years, over 300 sites built. You've clocked, you know, over 10,000 Squarespace hours. Um, you're what I would consider a veteran, right? Um, how did you get into Squarespace web design? Was this always a thing for you? Like, where does this fit into your career path?
Yeah, so rewind back to the early days of Squarespace. So Squarespace 6 was around in 2013. And I had been working for a not-for-profit and had essentially just stumbled across Squarespace. They were using it as a tool to reach out to their international offices and create a website that each of these offices could go and use. And so my part in that was to run it as a project. And I then thought, oh, this looks quite interesting. I could give it a go myself. And so the church that I attended had a really bad website. And I thought, oh, let me tinker with Squarespace and see what could I do. I had in the past used things like MailChimp and other tools that use this similar drag and drop functionality. But it's still quite a new concept, this equivalent zero code editor. And so, yeah, for fun, I just started building a site. And then one thing led to another and started to pick up some more opportunities.
And so then at what point did this become your full-time thing?
So it had been a side hustle for far too many years. It was the equivalent. You have conversations with people and they say, oh, what do you get up to in your spare time? And I say, oh, I go and build Squarespace websites. And so for the past 8 or 9 years, it has been this side hustle. And yeah, the whole thing started with me saying to friends, oh, what do you get up to? So building the sites, and they say, oh, I've got a friend who wants a site. You should go and talk to them. And so have a conversation and end up creating a site for them. And so it had taken up lots of my lunchtimes, evenings, weekends, and then it's very nicely blossomed into where I am today, which is being able to do this as a full-time job. So within the last year, I managed to quit my day job, and then I'm doing this full-time, which I never thought I would have this opportunity all those years ago.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's been a real blessing that this has come about, and I can actually just design sites and get creative, and people want to pay me for it.
Right. I mean, it sounds like you said yes to it long enough for it to be just a permanent yes.
Well, correct, but I think along the way you have to make strategic no's.
Mm,
So the yeses started with, like, how do you get started is often a question that um, people have asked me. And what I basically did was I had a few people who essentially couldn't afford to pay a web designer, then say, "Oh, I've got this site and it looks a bit rubbish," or "It kind of works but doesn't work on a phone. Um, would you be able to help me?" Or words to that effect. So these were people that were charities, startups. One person was an author, and that essentially gave me a portfolio,
mhm.
having said yes to a lot of these, to then be able to create my own site and then put that in front of people to then enable a more people to get in touch.
Right. I think it's interesting that your site came second to the first bunch of sites, right?
Mm, yeah, yeah.
Because
It
I think a lot of web designers, assume that they have to have their site all ready to go and bundled up when, when you're having conversations with people, you don't really need a website to get the job done, at least initially.
No, no, not at all. And maybe I started in more of the early days of, I say early days, this is within the last 10 years, and it sounds ludicrous saying the early days. But I started at a time where, yeah, I didn't have a site of my own. Essentially, my work was just showcasing other people's. And then a lot of the sites that organically just came about was because for a couple of sites, I put my name in the footer. And then people clicked on that, saw that I got up to things. And that's basically how the name Made by Dave came about, because I thought, well, what on earth am I going to call myself? Like, to think of this, because it wasn't a business, it was a side hustle. And in the footer, I thought, well, people write website, colon, and then what do they write after this? So I thought, oh, be a nice touch. We'll just say Made by Dave. It's personal. Loads of people know somebody called Dave, and it it's basically stuck.
Yeah. Dave, so I'm curious, right? Of my last, I don't know, five or so guests, half of them have been from the UK. How has the entrepreneurial culture changed in the past, let's say, 10 years? I was born in England, right? So, but I left
Mm-hmm,
like back in the 90s, in the mid 90s.
mm-hmm,
But I do remember, or I do like from my mom, I remember getting the sense that there was less mobility in terms of like, oh, I'm just gonna start a business or something like that.
mm.
Has is What's your perception of that been? Has it changed? What's that like?
So I think the pandemic has definitely sped up
Mm,
people wanting to take a leap into the unknown. And I think that, especially from like the web design side of things, Squarespace has been known in the UK for a long time, but I think it's even more so known, and people wanting to create sites for themselves, little personal projects and things like that. Um, but I think that, yeah, definitely in the past couple of years, people have had a bit more time on their hands, and they've thought, okay, what could I go and do? And thought of ideas that they had in the back of their heads, and then thought, okay, let me see if I can put this into action, and then see where things go.
yeah, yeah. I think that that's definitely been a worldwide experience.
Mm,
Um, so uh, now that you've made this a business, all right, what's been the hardest thing transitioning from this being just a side hustle, taking up all your spare time, to now being your full-time thing? Like, what's been something maybe that you didn't expect that is now like, oh, okay, I've got to deal with this.
yeah. So I think the dream is like being your own boss. it's a wonderful thing to have, but there are definitely pros and cons to it. And I think the pros are you've got the freedom, you've got flexibility, financially, if you put your mind to it, you could do very well for yourself. Um, but on the flip side, there's then the pressure of winning work. And what does that look like? There's maintaining a good reputation, and whether that is the work that you've done, because essentially the work that's out there is your portfolio, and it's that you use to go and showcase. And I think it's a thing of putting in the preparation in the time that it almost didn't matter, like you could fail fast, and that was totally fine because I had a day job, and it didn't matter if I made mistakes because I wasn't financially reliant on it. But turning it from a side hustle into a day job, things like very practically, I got a work phone because checking emails and answering WhatsApp messages and things like that was all too easy to be able to do just on your personal phone, and to need a bit of separation, because the fact that you aren't reliant on an employer to pay your salary then makes you think, oh, well, I need to be doing more work. And therefore, you start to run into, oh, I should do some more time in the evenings, or I should do it at the weekends. And I had to really make a intentional decision to say, okay, at the end of like 5 p.m. on a end of a working day, right, I'm clocking off. That's me done, and then I'll pick things back up the next day. And yeah, that being intentional about that, because I effectively was in control of what I was getting up to,
Yeah.
is some of the things that I felt I had to put in place.
Yeah, that's a good one. I saw something from you a few weeks ago on LinkedIn that I was like, yes, I'm glad someone is tapping into this uh, thing, which is being responsive, right? So,
Mm-hmm,
and I think in this case it was the Squarespace marketplace.
mm-hmm,
I think you tapped into something where it's like you realize, oh, if I respond quickly to these things, I'll get more of them.
mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. So the post that I said was basically within 24 hours, I'd got 10 inbound leads, and I was quite astounded by it. Um, but the art of how that all came about was it's it's then trying to understand. Well, I had to understand how the algorithm worked from 99 Designs, who are the suppliers for Squarespace's marketplace. So they um, have a little algorithm where if you apply within 24 hours, or you win enough jobs, or you are able to convert a job into then an actual project, and then get that done quickly, that you would start to get boosted up the ranks. And also, I guess, in the other hand, is you'd get more opportunities coming
Yeah.
to you. And yeah, what I found was I just spent some time quickly responding to these inbound leads. I've got some strategic framing questions that I go and send people. So it's not like I need to send a reply to, like, a personal reply to absolutely everybody. They are personalized, but they're done in such a way that you can fire them off pretty quickly, because there's a lot of requests that come through that don't turn into anything, and only between 10 and 20% of the inbounds that come in would actually convert into an opportunity. So in that sense, you have to be quite clever with it.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is that I basically had to say no to them all, which is wild when you think, well, I've got 10 opportunities that have come in because, well, I said it tactily no, because I said, well, I'm busy for the next 4 to 6 weeks. If you want to chat, let me know. If not, then thanks for the opportunity. And so the reason that I basically indirectly said no is because I don't want what I'm getting up to be all consuming. And there's only so much that the team of freelancers that I have who work on my projects as well as me, there's only so much that I want to then send off to them. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
lovely place to be in. And so, yeah, there we go.
Um, and that's a great insight right there. What have been like, the marketplace is one channel, right? But
Mhm.
have you done any other, you know, tried anything else elsewhere in terms of generating leads for your design business?
I really haven't, which is a, probably a strange thing to go and say because I haven't tried the other freelancer um, setups. I haven't actively been on socials channels to then promote. Um, and it's very much been an organic way to the point which I basically spent, well, I had up until I turned it full time, spent £0 on any sort of marketing because a lot of it was just all organic and it's snowballed from you do one person's site, you put your name on the bottom,
Yeah.
then you get lots of invites coming through that but this has all happened very organically over the last 9 years. And but then word of mouth happens and one person says, oh yeah, I had a great experience with Made by Dave and you should go and talk to them. And so I just get emails out of the blue from people and I then have to ask them, how on earth did you hear about me? And they're like, oh yeah, I talked to such and I saw you about and hey, let's have a conversation. And I've been active in Facebook groups and commenting um, and just being part of the community. But yeah, from that side, I've almost kept quite a under the radar profile on things because I've then been busy doing getting creative and building people's sites.
Yeah. I mean, if you got hundreds of sites out there with made by Dave in the footer, that's gonna bring some inbound traffic.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, it is, and quite a few of them have been large, quite high profile sites as
mhm,
well. And so also when you tap into certain networks, then those networks start seeing the things that you've done
yeah.
and they then get in touch and it snowballs from there.
Yeah, you become the plug for that network.
Yeah, the go-to person
Yep.
for creating certain types of sites. And yeah, it's been a really lovely place to be in, and which is how I felt I could quit my day job to then go into this because I basically tested the waters
Yeah.
over the last 18 months to then see, is this something that could be viable? And what happened is I met with a business coach who we were just chatting about my actual day job at the time, but I kept bringing up Made by Dave.
Yeah.
And she said to me, there seems like there's something in this that we need to explore. And I'd said to her, look, keep turning off the services that 99 Designs will give you to offer for making websites. And she said, what, you keep turning them off so that you're basically shutting down opportunities that are coming in? I said, yeah, I'm too busy. And I, I'm not one to brag about being too busy because
Yeah.
sometimes I see that as being a bad thing. And
That's true.
so she's like, well, okay, what are you going to do about this? So I thought, I think I need someone to come and help me. So I reached out to a friend of mine called Ian, and he runs his own little Squarespace website business. And I said to him, hey, look, I've got all these leads. Do you want some? Like, do you want to freelance? And we'll have a little working relationship, and off we go. He said, yeah, I can do that for you. And it was around the time of my youngest child, who was we were just about to become parents for the second time. And I said, look, I'm not going to have some time. I'm going to take paternity leave. I need someone to cover things. And it's just grown. And we basically not turned off the services from there on. And it's then showed that if you allow two people's worth put behind the opportunities that come through, what could happen. And so that's then proven to me over the last year to 18 months that I can quit my day job and allow what I get up to pay for a mortgage and support my family. And there we go.
Yeah. It sounds like, you know, you had a lot of overflow and uh you're blocking it because it's like I can't handle that, and now you've
Yeah.
opened it up. So you work with like a small team of freelancers.
Mm-hmm.
How do you manage these projects? Like, would you consider yourself like a project manager in this regard, and you're allocating work? Like, how do you do this?
So in a past life, I have been a project manager. So in that sense, it comes quite naturally to run projects. But a lot of these, I will have a working relationship with the team and just pass them the opportunities and say, here you go, over to you.
Right.
Because there's only so much that I can have capacity for. So then I allow them to talk directly to the clients. Within some people are a bit more skilled than others to be able to win the work themselves. And so, yeah, from that sense, I didn't want to be managing people, and I didn't want to just be the salesperson who then passed all the opportunities to others and allowed them to do the work. The whole reason that I went to go and make this full time was it's the creativity within building sites that energizes me. So if I can pass these leads to other people who can act on behalf of Made by Dave and still go through all the same um, processes and still have a great output at the end, that's how we have managed to get to where we are today.
Um, this is my last point, right? I want you to speak to these five things I'm going to mention. All right. Thing number one: help others. Number two: seek help. Three: prioritize time. Four: have fun. And five: dream big. What do these points mean to you?
So it is a it is a case of um, allowing you to think beyond where you could go yourself, um, and so the whole help others. So the whole reason I got into it is because I wanted to be helping people help themselves. And so initially I started doing it for free, and then it demonstrates the skill that you get up to, then allows you to be able to ask people for some money, and then be able to keep going. Um, seek help, you mentioned, was you can't just do it by yourself. It's There's a community around you of people that love Squarespace, and so I've been within these Facebook groups and within the forums to just bounce ideas and glean from other people who have had pain points, and be able to then effectively help each other.
Right.
Prioritizing time, you mentioned, was then a work-life balance. So family for me has to come first, and then the business side of things comes second. There has been times which I have been building websites at like 10 p.m. at night, through to like the early hours of the morning. And it's been a time in which on the outside, it might look like, oh, there's great success and there's brilliant things that are being done, but losing out on family time or mental load of like juggling essentially two full-time jobs. At one stage, I became good friends with the 5 a.m. club, which honestly isn't all that it's cracked up to be. And I'd much rather have a healthy work-life balance. And that whole thing of like the art of saying no to things, having fun. It's like, well, getting creative. Why can't you let your creative juices flow, allow the freedom and opportunity that brings, and along the way, don't take yourself too seriously. Like, there's so many people that when I design sites for them, I say, look, give me your honest feedback on things, because I've done enough sites that I am happy to receive what they're going to tell me, and then have fun along the way with it. But dreaming big was the thought all those years ago, which is like, okay, what if? What if I could do this full time? What if I could not only help and build sites for like friends, but then networks within the UK, but then, oh, what about international clients? What about people that just I've never even known what they get up to? And so this lulled me designing sites, then having that opportunity to be a Squarespace expert, which is a bit of a wild thing to go and say. And yeah, never really even dreamed that would be possible. And yet here we are today. And yeah, I look forward to seeing what the future holds.
Awesome, Dave. That was great. I love that. I love each of those lessons that you've extracted from your journey as a Squarespace designer, especially leading with helping others. Um, you can never fail with that path.
Mm,
Um, yeah, to me, it's one of those like is it like a truism?
yeah,
If you lead with that, it'll always open up doors, and then it always, to me, it always comes back around to that. Whenever I get stuck, I say, "All right, who do I need to help? like,
yeah.
like where do I
It's
need to
pay
be
it
of
forward
assistance?"
essentially,
Yeah. Well,
because other people will then come back around and help you.
yep. hmm great big old loop. Dave, it's been great talking and getting to know you. Do you have any parting words for our audience?
I guess see the opportunities that may be around you and see if you dream bigger than what is in your current reality, what could happen. And I'm one story that you can hear. I'm sure I know there are plenty of other people's stories which are on a similar line. And yeah, what could your trajectory look like? So there we go.
Thanks, Dave. Dream big.